Welcome to Business Growth Talks. Today we're deep diving into the power of networking and the tools that fuel that business. Our guest is Joe Mindak, who is a seasoned entrepreneur with the co-founder as a co-founder of the Connective, a thriving business network. Joe is passionate about helping professionals forge meaningful connections that grow and drive opportunities. But that's not all. Joe is also a visionary behind Nolodex, a cutting edge networking software designed to streamline and elevate how members connect and collaborate. With over 25 years worth of experience in marketing, publishing, and event management, Joe has a wealth of insights into building communities, fostering trust, and creating systems that work. In this episode, we explored Joe's entrepreneurial journey and his rapid growth with his software and his community. So get ready for actionable insights and the inspiring stories from one of the leading voices in business growth and connection. Just a quick one. I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining me today and being with me on this show. One thing that is really, really important I want to share with you is this show is growing really well, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so pleased that you're enjoying this content. But if you could please hit the follow and subscribe to this channel, it will really help the channel on its being able to grow and the people that we can have on this show. So please do consider, if you have a moment, please can you hit the subscribe button and the follow button, and I would really appreciate it. Hey Joe, how are you today?
Hey, Mark, doing great. Getting back into the swing after a couple of weeks of trying to relax and excited for 2025. We ended the year great, and 2025 is already kicking off well. We got a lot of exciting things going on. So thanks for having me on today. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. We are going to talk about all those interesting things that you're doing, especially with the software with Nolodex, which I think is actually groundbreaking, and we'll talk about that in this episode. But thank you for joining me. First question I ask all of my guests is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
I think it's for me, it's defining how are you going to run your business, what your goal is, right? What are you trying to do in your business, and sticking with that, right? I recently talked to actually another guy in the UK, and we were talking, and we came out of it as, be consistent long enough to be successful, right? And I thought that was really interesting, right? Because I've had a lot of people try things and they give up. They try, they'll go to a networking group, it's not working. They'll try some marketing, it's not working. They'll try that, it's not working. You got to give it time, like going to the gym, right? You got to be consistent, go every day, go all the time, and then you're eventually going to lose that 20 pounds. But people come on, and I think with me, this has been 5 years in the making of Nolodex and the software and what we've been doing, right? And it started off very slow, and I had to be consistent, right? I've been doing it and keeping the focus of this is the end game we have, right? You start
Mm,
with the end game. Like this is where we want to get to in our goal, and you're slowly building it, right? And it's, obviously you always want things to go quick and explode, but you got to do it the right way, right? And I think you can't continue growing your business until you prove that this works. And then okay, that works. Now let's try something this different. That works and that works, right? So you just got to keep adding some things to it and then testing them out and pivoting, right? But to getting to that end game, which we defined years ago, this was the end result that I wanted, and now we're getting to that, right? So yeah, so find your business model and stick with it. Don't worry about what other people are coming. Oh my, there's a competitor. People are constantly sending me competitors. Like they're not a competitor, right? And I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about what we're doing, right? So yeah, just get those goals in mind and stay consistent with them. That's what I've always done with every business I've had. So,
so
and if it's not
consistency.
working, yeah, and if
Sorry,
it's not
go on.
working, then you cut it off, right? Right.
Mm.
I've had several businesses where I started, was in for 2 years, and I'm like, nope, it's not working. It's not going to work. Just cut it off before you keep dumping money into it and trying to make it work. Money's not going to make it work.
Yeah, and consistency is an interesting point because you have to be consistent on whatever venture that you're trying to do. But when you've got the darker days, when you've got it's tough, like it's not growing fast enough for you. You have your expectation of where you want it to be. How have you got through those times and been consistent when it's been tough and when it's like been, whether it's financially or at time or whatever, that you're struggling? How do you keep consistent?
Well, I think the biggest thing, right? You're a business owner, right? You started your own business. You got to do everything you can, and you can't go into it with like, oh, I could do this on my own. It's going to be easy to run a business. It's not. I've never worked for anybody. I've always owned my own business, so that's helped because when I was young, I got those struggles down. Right when I started a magazine back in 2009, right, and I was the sales guy, right? I was the guy that was selling the ads. I had my creative director, I had my guy doing the website, and I remember specifically the day I wanted to quit because I was out in the rain, right? We had to sell $12,000 worth of advertising to pay for the
Mm.
first print issue. The printing of the magazine cost $12,000. So if
Right.
I could sell $12,000 worth of ads and not have to put up any money to start this new business, then we're off to off and running, right? And it was a Saturday because I had my own business. I had my marketing company I was using all week. And on Saturday, I was walking around all day Saturday. It was pouring rain out. And the last thing I wanted to be doing was going door to door selling ads for $700 when I'm selling $100,000 projects for my marketing company. And yeah, I wanted to give up that day. I was like, this sucks. I could be home watching a movie. My kids were like 3 and 5 at the time. My
Mm.
wife, we could all be sitting on the couch with the family. But, hey, this is not going to happen unless I do it.
Mm.
If I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is going to be able to bring in these sales. And I, spent 3, 4 hours walking around in the rain and got a couple more that day, right? So you can't give up. There's been a lot of times that I've wanted to give up, and you can't. You're the business owner. If you give up, the business is done, right?
Mm.
So I've had several times, and you just gotta get that out from your gut and be like, hey, I own this business. I can't stop, right? And there's been a couple times, and I remember the specific times. I remember my marketing agency. We were up for the Howard Stern website, which imagine doing Howard Stern's
Yeah.
website. Talk
Yeah.
about how many people have on your podcast first. Howard Stern has 17 million followers, and he starts
Mm.
talking about this agency that's doing his website, right? And we lost it. We didn't get it. And I was in Vegas. I remember I was in Las Vegas. His agent called me, Howard Stern's agent, Don Buchwald actually just passed, and he said, you didn't get it. And I was like, I wanted to lay down on that bed and cry and be like,
Mm.
that was a big thing for us. And I'm like, oh, move on and keep going to the next thing, right? You can't give up. So
We'll come back to the journey that you've had, but one of the questions I also ask my guests is, tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
yeah, my father, started his own business. Right, he was a sales guy like me. Right, if you can't tell by now, I'm a sales. I'm not a pushy sales guy, but I like to talk and I love selling. So it was really, I think, my father who had that influence because he would talk to everybody about anything all the time, and he was the life of the party, and he was the guy doing it. But he was, in sales, and he was in the printing business, and he bought a machine and put it, and it was in our basement as a kid. I remember going down to our basement. It was a little small printing press. I don't even know how they got it down to the basement. And he would, sell for the company he's working for, and then he would sell for himself and actually do the printing himself. And I just saw him doing that, and I was like, well, that's something I could do, right? And then, he started a pizza place. He started, he bought a boat to try to do a fishing thing. So he was always trying different things to do it. So I guess it had to be a good influence on me to be like, oh, maybe I should do the same type of thing, right? And it's interesting because to this day, I'm sitting at my dad's desk. It's a roll top desk that I'll show you quickly. It's a mess, but it's his
Yeah.
roll top desk that he had all in my growing up. It was in his in his bedroom, and that was his home office. And now I've got the desk has to be 40 years old, right? So now I use it as
Mm.
my desk. And
That's
I don't know if
amazing.
I don't know if his was as messy as mine is, but they say you're a genius if it's messy, right? So I guess that's what I'll
Well,
go with.
hopefully
Yeah,
that's true, because my desk is quite messy all the time. So yeah. So why didn't you ever get a job?
yeah. Back to my dad and my mom, really. So I graduated college. I was an education major, and I decided at that point I wanted to make some money first. So where you make money, you go into sales. So this was 1995, and I went to New York City. I was interviewing all the time, every week, and I went on tons of interviews. And every job that wanted to offer me a position, they needed a year experience was their prerequisite. It's like, Joe, we love you. We think you'd be great, but you have to have a year. Like our company won't hire without a year
Mm.
proven
Mm.
sales. So I was living at home, right out of college. I was living at home for free, whatever. And my mom came to me and said, your dad really wants you to work for him, right? And for me, I was like very hesitant because my dad sold printing, right? And he was about a $250,000 company at that time. At one point, I think he was about a $500,000 company. So he did well for himself, and he had no overhead, nothing. And I wasn't getting a job. So I was like, you know what, Dad? Why don't I go sell for you for a year? I'll get my year experience. His
Mm,
business was actually going downhill at the time because Kinko's came out, computers came out. Like, you didn't need a small printer. You go to Kinko's and
yeah,
get 100 copies of something done, right? So I was like, hey, we'll help each other, right? You scratch my back. So I'll go out, I'll get a year experience under my belt working for his company, and I'll get him some new clients and then move on, right? And at the end of the year, I was like, well, wait a second. Why am I going to go work for Mark now? And Mark's going to give me 10% of whatever I sell when I could just keep 100% of whatever I sell. Why?
mm,
I like to do the sales. So I said to my dad, look, why don't we just grow this business, right? And work for ourselves. Like, why am I going to go off and get a job? So I had to convince my dad to take out a loan. Again, my dad had no overhead. He didn't pay rent. He was in a shop with his buddy, and he had no overhead. Right now, I'm like, hey, let's take out a $50,000 loan. Let's go rent a building. Let's buy a bunch of equipment we don't know how to use, right? Because I'm like, we have to sell bigger. He still had
yeah,
those small printing presses. Like, we have to sell bigger project brochures and stuff like
mm,
that. So I finally convinced him to do it, and he was very hesitant about it. And we did. So we took out a $50,000 loan, and the company grew from $250,000 to about $3 million in the course of about 3 years or so. And it's just really selling. The rest of it I learned along the way. I should
mm,
have learned other stuff about business, but just getting out and hitting the pavement and like, all right, this is my business now. I got to go out and same thing like I was saying before. I got to go out and work my ass off. 16 hours a day we were working when we started to get it going, right? And then so from there I wound up running that company for 20 years. So it's just I
wow,
never had to get a job. So my dad retired after about 5 years because we got rid of all the printing equipment after 5 years. Like, hey, there's this thing called graphic design, and websites are
mm,
coming out.
mm,
A lot more money in that, and not all the costs involved. So my dad retired, and he kept taking a salary because he put up he was the investor, and it was great. So I was like, all right, this is good. So I just and then from there, it turned into a marketing agency, and I was like, well, same type of thing. I'm like, why am I doing all this work for Mark's company and marketing his company, letting his company grow, and I could start my own companies and use my marketing team to market those companies. So that's when the other companies started coming about. So
did you sell the printing business?
I didn't really sell the printing business. At one point, I bought my partners out who wanted to stay in printing, and I wanted to go to marketing. So we kind of got rid of the printing side of things and focused on the marketing. Eventually, yeah, I sold the marketing agency about 2016. I think I sold, and I sold the magazine at the same time. So I started the magazine in 2009, and I sold both companies around 2016 to pursue other companies because I was like, all right, 20 years of doing this has been great.
Mm,
Let me get out. I had other ideas for companies I wanted to start, so I had to get rid of those companies to do the
yeah,
other ones.
and
Right?
start
You
another
can't
one.
run two companies and start two more right at the same time. So it's a little tough.
So if there's listeners and viewers of this that are thinking they're either starting or early stage of show of businesses, what did you learn over those years in sales that can be a hint, a tip, or a strategy for someone that isn't particularly confident in selling?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough if you're not a salesperson. Like, it's going to be a tough ride, and that's what we try and teach everyone in our community to do better in sales because they come off of being a bookkeeper or a web designer, and all of a sudden they're running a company and they're in charge of sales. They have no idea how to do it. So, with sales, you really got to be, obviously networking. Like, we have a networking community. It's a great way because it's not really sales; it's introductions to people they know. So
Mm,
that's really helpful. You go and cold calling, like, no one's going to do that. Emails work, but again, being consistent, right? If you start doing marketing, pick something. If you're going to do SEO, pick it and stick with it. Run with that, and then
yeah.
the sales will come in, the leads will come in that way. But it's tough if you don't have the money to do all that marketing to start. So you're going to have to, do it all yourself. So you're going to have to join a networking group, go on to LinkedIn, and just all day long be prospecting people. And that takes away from if you're the web designer and you have to do the sales, how do you do the web design when you're trying, so it's a tough, cart before the horse type of thing. So yeah, being, basically getting out and networking and getting to get people to make introductions is going to be the easiest way for you if you're not a typical salesperson. But the biggest thing I see is people are afraid. Don't be afraid to ask somebody. Hey, Mark, do you know anyone that needs a website? Do you know anyone in marketing? You know
Mm,
someone you could
mm,
introduce me to? Like, people are always afraid to ask somebody for that referral. You got to ask for them. Hey, oh, I don't know any. I'm not in the marketing space. Bullshit. You might know. I'm sure there's people you know, Mark, that you just probably forgot about, right? Let's go on your LinkedIn and see who you might know. Oh yeah, oh that's right. My cousin's in marketing. I forgot about. Oh yeah, my buddy from college is right. I was just with my buddy a couple weeks ago, and I write songs, right? I just put out a new album, and I was with my buddy watching a football game a couple weeks ago. He goes, "Do you know so and so from Dayton where we went to college together?" I go, "No, who's that?" He goes, "He was on my floor freshman year. He's like the guy guy's the head of he's the president of Sony Music Publishing. He's
oh,
like
right.
the top guy at Sony Music Publishing that publishes music. He's the top guy." So I reached out to a couple guys. They're like, "Yeah, I know him. I can make an introduction for you." Right. So you got to just, if you're there, the leads are out there, the people for you to talk to. You just got to use your network, and you have a network, right? Even if you're
Mm,
not a salesperson, you still have a network of 100, 200 people that you know, right, from college, from your old work, from your old jobs, right? If you're, again, I always go back to web and stuff like that because I'm a marketing guy. Hey, you're on your own web shop now. Hey, you used to be in an agency with Mark 10 years ago. Now he's
mm,
at another agency, but you guys are good friends. You go out for drinks all the time together. Reach out to him. Hey,
mm.
Mark, what's going on? Where you at? Oh, yeah, I'm at this other agency. Hey, you guys ever have any web stuff that you kind of siphon off to other small agencies? Yeah, we get a lot of calls that stuff isn't for us. It's too small for us. And yeah, we'd love to give it to you, right? So you got to use that network. Whether you join a group or lose it, you all have a network of people. You just got to ask them who they can introduce you to, right?
Yeah, it's
And then
that
you got,
asking though, isn't it? It's Joe, it's that asking. Like some people feel self-conscious or a bit like uncomfortable in asking about how people can help you, but it's got to be a mutual thing. If you can help them, then they will help you and vice versa. So it is really just asking people, and that's one
yeah,
of the challenges that especially people that have come from industries, as you say, like maybe a website builder or maybe an accountant who aren't used to networking and being out there and talking to people and asking them. It
yeah.
is a challenge for some people.
Yeah, and you got to ask them back too, right? You can't just like I would get people that call me after 10 years I haven't heard from them. Went to college. Hey, Joe, how's it going? Good, great. What do you want? Oh, you know anyone? I'm in insurance now. You know anyone that like? So when I ask somebody that I haven't talked to in a while that I still know well enough to ask, hey, Mark, I need you to introduce me to Susie Smith that you're connected to on LinkedIn. Do you know her well enough to make an introduction? Please let me know. Also, hey, look on my LinkedIn. Is there anyone I can introduce you to? Right.
Yeah,
So give it right back to them, not just like I'm asking you something. Hey, who do you want from me? You give me
yeah,
you connect me to that person. I got a whole network of people I can connect you to, right? And so don't be afraid to ask, and then don't be afraid to follow up. That's the other thing. Like we've made a lot of introductions, in the community where it's like, hey, Mark, talk to this person. And then like 3 weeks later, like, Mark, how'd it go? They never responded.
mm,
They never responded to the one email you sent. Like you got to hit, what's the average? 7 hits before you actually get a meeting with somebody. Like
yeah,
even if it is an introduction. So just don't be afraid to follow up too. Hey, and always use the person that referred you to follow up. Hey, Mark Hayward referred me to you, and I want to. Oh, okay. So these people get a lot of emails. You're not their top
yeah,
priority. They do want to meet with you. They said they do, but they got stuff going on, right? I introduced somebody in the group a couple months ago to my friend Amy, and she's like, Joe, I've never traveled this much in my life, in my career. She's like, I've been to Japan and India, like this new company she's with. She's like, I don't even know if the guy reach out to me. And if he didn't
right,
mention your name, I probably just went, it just went right through my emails and it didn't get to it. So,
yeah,
she's like, just have him keep reaching out to me and keep saying hey, referred by Joe Mindak, referred by Joe Mindak. So she knows
yeah,
she's a good friend of mine. I've known her for 30, 40 years, So just make sure you do the follow up. A lot of people don't do that follow up, and
yeah,
they're
yeah. I
afraid to be like annoying to somebody. And there's a persistence and annoyance, right? Don't get somewhere in between there.
somewhere in
Don't annoy
between, yeah,
somebody and reach out every day. Hey, Mark, I haven't heard from you yet. So reach out when you can.
yeah. So So talk to me about Nolodex. What is it? When did you set it up? And what's the ambition? What's the aim of the software?
So the software is there for communities, right? There's a lot of networking groups out there, right? Everybody's networking, right? We're looking to change how you network. We're saying pay for referrals, right? Because people like myself who are good referral givers and connectors, have been giving, 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 right? And you're expecting to get something back, and you just never do, right? It's just because the other people aren't good networkers. So it's like, all right, good. Mark, you're not a good networker. I am. I'm going to give you 5 referrals. I don't care if you give me a referral back, but pay me for that referral,
Mm.
right? So that's how it started. When I sold my marketing agency, people kept calling me. I need a referral for this, Joe. I need a referral for that. So I was like, all right, let me introduce you to this person. This guy can do your website, SEO, whatever it is. And I got about a dozen agencies and said, hey, listen, if I send you work, will you pay me? They're like, yeah, I hate selling. So there's those people that are good networkers that don't like selling and the people that are. So why don't you put them together and be like, these guys are like, I'll pay you to go out and sell for me, Mark. I'm happy to pay you. So I don't have to go sell. I could just sit back and do my website or do my bookkeeping, whatever it is. Yes, that would be great for me. And for guys like me that just love talking and meeting people, I'm going to get paid. So I got about a dozen agencies when I started and said, pay me. So over the course of the year, I just sent them business, right? And they'd send me a commission, all year. And I brought in like $85,000 in commissions. So for like a little side gig, and I was running 2 other companies at the time. I sold the other 2 companies to start these 2 new companies. So I was
Yeah.
getting those off the ground, and on the side, I was just like, oh yeah, Mark, let me introduce you. $85,000 I made,
Mm.
right? That's
It's
good
incredible.
money. So
Yeah.
then I got like 20 people together and was like, hey guys, we're all good networkers, right? You, John, Susie, Jamie, whatever. We're all good networking people. These are people I knew and said, why don't we all help each other like a networking group does? But everyone pays. You get a deal, you pay into the pot, and we'll split it. I'll take half, you take half. So that's how this whole thing started. And then it kept growing because people are like, this is so much better. Me as a good networker, I'm getting paid now. And me as someone that's not a good networker that doesn't like selling, I'm getting just people sending me work and incentivized to send me work, right? That's the incentive. I saw long ago with LinkedIn. I'm like, there's no incentive for me to introduce you on LinkedIn.
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
know who you. Why am I going to introduce you, Mark? Well, now you're part of my network, and you'll pay. You'll get paid if you make the introduction. You're going to make that introduction, right? So there's no incentive. So we put an incentive in place, and Nolodex tracks that all, right? So as we grew from 20 people to 40 people to now we have 420 something people in the community, there's got to be something that tracks it. So Nolodex tracks all the deals. It connects. Like you have different chapters of your networking group. Great. This chapter can now talk to that chapter, right? I just talked to a guy in Boston. Boston, they got Chicago, they got Philly. None of those people talk to each other. They're all little separate communities
Mm.
with under one umbrella, but none of them talk to each other. So the software allows people to connect to each other now, right? All of our 425 people can connect to each other right on the platform. And then, oh, I got a referral for you, Mark. You put it in the system. It tracks that referral. You put notes, follow up, make sure because everyone wants to make sure those deals go through because again, they're going to get paid. This is a new side gig for everybody to
Mm.
make more
Mm.
money by using their network, right? And they're happy to get paid. They love it. So the system tracks it all, puts the payments in. The payments automatically get divvied out to who's ever part of the deal and stuff like that. So it all does it automatically. So we're saying to people that are in communities now, hey, you should reach out to the person running your community, be like, hey, I heard people are in other communities are getting paid now. Why don't we pay each other? I'd like to do that. Or if you're the community owner and all you're doing is charging dues, right? That's your only revenue stream. Now you put everyone on Nolodex. You could run the dues through the system. We don't even charge. We just do the credit card fee through that. But now your people can refer each other business, pay commissions on the deals, and you get a cut of every deal. So all 400 something people, whenever a deal goes through, we get a cut of every one of those deals. So you're
Mm.
adding a new revenue stream to
Mm.
your platform. And it doesn't, we only charge $129 a month for the software because we make money on the back end on the deals.
Mm.
So it's only going to cost you $1,500. Even communities that already have a platform out there, our platform alone is probably just cheaper. Even if they don't want to do the referral
Yeah.
fees, like that's not what we want. But like it's $129 a month to either start your own. If you want to start your own networking group and do what I did and start this group, you could start it, use the platform to do it, and track everything for you. It's only going to cost you $129 a month to start your own business, or to take your existing networking group and put them on the platform and add a new revenue stream to you. You'll make that 1,500 bucks back up like that by a couple deals. So we just had a deal come in this morning, $1,400. There's the payment for the platform for the entire year on one
Yeah.
deal. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I want to go into the functionality, but I want to know about so I was involved in software in the corporate world where we were building software, and I know how challenging it can be. Takes more time, costs more money, takes more resources with building a software product. So how have you been on building that software and testing it and revising it and getting it ready for the market?
I don't know what you're talking about. I built it over a weekend and we're up and running on a Monday. No. Yeah, I mean it's like building a house, right? You like there's you open up a wall and there's a leak in the plumbing. So yeah, it took us about I would say almost about a year and a half to get the software to the point where we put our community on of 300 people last November. So we've been using it. And again, like everything, you gotta, like I said at the beginning, you gotta take these steps, right? So we wanted to put all our people on and let us be the guinea pigs to test this thing. So we've been using it for a year now and everything's working great, but there's always bugs and stuff. So over the summer, we had about 3 months where we fixed all the bugs that were happening, right? And now we've just launched it to the world in October, where we said, okay, now other people, and that was the goal in mind the whole time. We want to build it so
Yep.
other networking groups, alumni associations, charities, all sorts of people can use this thing to raise money. So we started opening up to other communities. So now we have about 10 communities already onboarded that'll start bringing their members on, and we have a whole plan to get to get more people on with that. But yeah, I mean, it's. We originally thought it was going to cost this amount of money, and then it went to that, then it went to that, then it went. But luckily we got a good dev partner in Studio Labs, one of our members too, and they've been good about working with us to continue to build it and add on things and work out paying it off and all that stuff. So it's been not easy to build a software, but the one thing I would suggest to anyone that's going to build a software first is to do the development and the D&D design and whatever they call it. So at the beginning, like it's hiring an architect, right? You hire
Yeah.
the architect.
So you got to do the
How
research and the development at an early stage to
Right.
understand
So
it.
we
Yeah,
did that first, right? We paid like 30 grand to do that first. Like, here's how it's got to work. And it's a
yeah,
huge, big, octopus, whatever. But that's what you would do with an architect, right? Where's the
yeah,
basement? Where's the heater going to go? And then we went out and bid it out to a bunch of shops, right? You could take those documents and bid it out to a bunch of shops. We ultimately wanted to stay onshore and we paid more money for it, but it's paid off. Like people that have used the software or looking at the software, even a lot of developers like, wow, you guys built a very impressive piece of software. Like and it works, right? There's always bugs and always stuff that's not working. Like Mark
yeah, yeah,
Hayward can't log in. All right, let's figure out what's going on there. But for
yeah.
the most part, like every day flows, everything goes through, so it's good. So, but it was a long road, and obviously you want to get out as quickly as you possibly can, but also doesn't have to be perfect,
Mm.
right? It has to work in general, and that's why we launched it to our community first to make sure all the little things that might annoy people are done. But there's always going to be bugs, but get it out. Like we put it out, and there's some things that aren't working still, and we've had to work on communities. Like one's up in Canada, and there's been a couple issues with the internet. Like, but you got to figure those things out, and
Mm.
you'll continue to build and grow that thing. We're gonna always build this thing. It's never gonna be the
Yeah,
same
it's
thing.
never going to stop, is it? You're always going to add new features, do
Yeah.
enhancements, and sort of keep on building. But it's a big deal. So I'm just like I know it took a couple of years, but to get that ready for other communities, other networking groups, I think it's been an incredible achievement. And I know how hard it is testing the software, building as well. I always found the testing always takes you more than you think it's going to take, but
Sure. Yeah.
because it's one of the hardest areas. So what's the growth strategy for Nolodex? What is the plan? So you've got 10 communities. Do you have an aggressive aim for the end of 2025?
Yeah, I mean, we want to get about 800 communities on by the end of the year, which is obviously aggressive. Like we wanted to start with 10 to 15 communities or so to test it out, make sure it's all working. And then with that, we're taking on investments right now. So we also want to get those first 10, 15 communities on to show what it can do with other communities, right? Instead of just ours. And then we'll start with the go-to. We have a whole go-to market strategy about reaching out, with PR and some LinkedIn strategies, email marketing, all that, and bringing on some salespeople. So we're bringing on. We got a lot of nice investments at the end of the year. So our goal is to bring on some sales and marketing really to grow this thing. So we're going after a couple markets. We'll go after existing networking groups are loving the platform. They're like, wow, this is a game changer for me, right? Not only is it going to be easier to run my group, I'm adding a revenue stream for literally almost nothing to the cost to start it. So they were really excited about it. We've been talking to alumni associations, right? Wow, we want to engage our alumni, and they're not engaging with each other. Well,
Mm,
if they make money by coming onto this platform and getting business for each other and helping each other get business, because I don't know about you, but when I went to school, University of Dayton, like if Dayton person contacts me, I usually respond pretty
mm,
quickly, like
mm,
and help them. So now I'm going to help them and also make money helping them. And then so we're doing that, and then co-working spaces is another one that we think is going to be good because they're all these co-working spaces are running 10 locations. They have 200 businesses in each location. Hey, why not be able to connect all those people with a
mm.
software as a service to be part of your network group? So that's our plan is to go after those three verticals to start, and then we have other verticals we'll go after that. We're talking to chambers; they kind of like it, but we're you got to figure out part of your go-to market strategy is to test a couple markets and see which
Yeah,
ones really kind of gravitate. Well, again, for us right now, networking groups. So if you're a networking group owner, you should be setting up a demo with us because
yeah.
they're every one of them has been like, holy crap, this is incredible. Like for one woman at one of the co-working spaces was on me. She's like, this is fucking brilliant. Those are her words, not mine. I don't know if you're allowed to curse on your podcast,
It's
but
fine. It's fine.
she's like, this is brilliant. Like, and that's what a lot of people said. Like, this is going to change the way we're running our business and how we're networking. So we're really excited because people are, the validation in the market's been there. People are like, this is awesome. Like, and besides like some hiccups on people, like one woman got vertigo, right? She's like, I got vertigo. Like I had to focus, I had to get that, so, but everyone else I talked to and like, this is awesome. Sign me up. How do I get on? Like, this is going to really change the way I'm running my group. And it basically handles all the back end of stuff and
Yeah, yeah.
gets
No, it
people
is great.
engages your community much more.
Yeah,
We have 3,000 deals going on in our community right now between 400 people.
yeah. No, it
3,000
really
deals.
is a great
Yeah.
software on
Yeah.
being able to do that. But I want to ask you about investment. So I know that you did a lot of it. You funded it mainly by yourself and your co-founder, but you talked about just saying about potentially getting investment. So again, for my audience that are sort of like dipping their toe in on whether to get investment, what have you found? What's the pros and what's the cons of getting investment, and why did you choose to go down that path?
Investment's really for scale, right? We could keep growing. Like you've heard of a unicorn, right? Where it just, that's what everyone wants. Everyone's invested in a unicorn, and then somebody I learned last year a donkey, right? There's the unicorn that just goes like this, and then donkey just kind of goes up the hill like this, right? And if you look at our growth chart, like it's like this and
Mm,
it's been steadily growing. So if you want to invest in a company, you want to invest in a company. Obviously, yeah, everyone wants this, whatever that
mm,
hockey stick thing. But our company's done nothing but grow since we started. So it's a donkey. We want to get a little bit of a racehorse going, right? So you want to scale to market. So the investment is really all going towards because the software is up and running, right? We don't have to build the software. We're not asking you for money, Mark, with this idea we have. We've proven the model. We have 425 businesses across the country that are using this model and deals going through, right? So that's working. We've proven everything that works. It's like, hey, so now and the investment is to go into sales and marketing for the most part. I think it's 60 something percent of the investment goes into sales and marketing because we need to scale and grow, right? You want to be first to market, right? Because someone else could build Nolodex and
mm,
come out with the same idea. It's not like we have a proprietary thing that nobody else could build. Someone build, but we want to be the first to market. We want to be out there and everyone talking about there's a new way to network and Nolodex is the system that could do it, right? So yeah, and for the people that are looking to invest, we're talking to some angel investors and things like that, but we also opened it up to friends and family. And a lot of our community members are like, this is awesome. This is growing my business, is helping. So we put a minimum of $5,000 for an investment because some people are like, I don't want to do the $25,000 minimum. Can I do 5,000? So we've opened it up with a lot of people like, I want in on this. I don't have that kind of $50,000, but I'd like to get in. So they get in and they own part of both companies. We have two LLCs, so you've got
mm.
both companies that you own part of, and we also have some guarantees in there. It's a nice investment for somebody that's not, looking to maybe their first time investing, and they kind of want to dip their toe in that water and see what it's like.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's been good. So like I said, we had a really good raise at the end of the year, and we got a lot of people looking to do it this year. So that'll just help us really scale, and get
Mm.
to that 800 people at the end of the year. So.
And so marketing and sales is where most of the money's going into. How are you actually approaching these organizations, these networking groups, these alumni groups? How are you what's the approach to market, approach to generating this marketing for these clients?
So I think really what we want to do is get the word out about, there's a new way to do networking, right? There's a whole paradigm shift in networking, right? And it's getting paid,
Mm,
right? Because people are doing it. People, like, you're in a group and you're like, hey man, thanks for that referral. Here's a gift
mm,
card, or hey, I want to give you $500 for introducing me to that person. But there's no, so it's networking is all about who you know. Sales is all about who you know. That's why there's a
mm,
million
mm,
networking groups, and networking works, right? And the other thing is, most businesses want to pay a referral fee. They're happy to pay a referral fee. You could get me in the door to your contact. Yeah, I'll pay you 10% or 8% or whatever you want to pay. So people are happy to do it, and they're doing it. Most companies have referral. All the large companies have referral programs, even for their employees. Everyone's got referral programs for the most part. Everyone's willing to pay. Nobody's put a system together to track it all, right? That's the
mm,
problem, right? I'm sure you're in another networking group. You got 60 people. Who's tracking all these deals? So, and if you're the community owner, you can't tell if Mark went to the bar and gave this guy $500 and didn't tell him or whatever. Like, so everything's done on the system, right? So for us, really, it's getting out there and building a system that could track it all and do all that. So that's what's really happening. So we're trying to get the word out through podcasts, through PR, and get people talking about, hey, I heard there's a bunch of other groups that are paying for their referrals. I want to be paid for my referrals. Hey, Mark, you run our group. Why aren't you paying us for our referrals? Why, And then the group owner is saying, yeah, why don't I pay? And I take a cut of the deals, right? So the people in your membership start getting paid for their referrals. So when they go to renew next year, guess what? Oh yeah, I'll renew for another $600 or whatever you charge for your group, because I made $2,000 in referring business. So you're going to keep. So the community owners are going to keep their members. The members are going to stay on because they're getting, even if they don't get deals for the business, they're still getting paid for the
mm.
referrals they gave. So they're generating income. And then the community owners continue to renew those people, right? And then they're adding an income stream for themselves. So it's like, it's so simple and so easy, and that's what people are like. Wow, yeah, I'd like to get paid. I have this group. I was talking to a guy who's got 150 members. I'm like, do you get paid at all? He goes, no. Someone just asked me to do it. I'm like, well, what if you charge everyone $50 a month for dues, or don't charge them anything? Just take a cut of every deal they bring in. He goes, yeah, they're paying each other right now. I go, well, put it all on the platform. You should be getting a cut of that. You're doing it for free. You're not
Mm.
getting, yeah, obviously you get benefit because you're the guy running it. People know you and you get business for it. But like, you got 150 people. Just think amount of the deals they could be passing along each month that you could get a cut of every deal. So, yeah, so we're really that go-to market strategy. But like, we got to start getting people talking about that conversation.
So what was the pivotal moment that made you go decide that you wanted to go into Nolodex and build Nolodex? There must have been, was it a frustration that you were in other networking groups and you weren't getting rewarded? What was that moment, that aha moment that you suddenly went, actually, why don't we reward people for giving referrals within network groups?
Well, it really started, you look back on your years. Like when I got rid of the printing side of my business, I went to the printers and said, look, I'm not, because I wasn't doing the printing ourselves. We were brokering the jobs out. I said, look, I don't even want to broker anymore. But Mark, every job I give you, how about you pay me a commission on? It's like, yeah, you want to keep sending me work? Then I'm just like, hey, Mark, you want printing? Go to these guys. They'll print it for you. That guy's the cheapest. That guy's the best. He's more expensive. But I'm giving you options. And then those guys would just send me checks, right? And I had like a sign guide, big signs and posters and all that. So that was like 2007, 2008, right? So like I started sending that stuff and I was like, oh, this is nice. I'm just making some money off of that. So that started the seed a little bit about doing that. And then when I sold the marketing company and I connected a president of a company that I knew for 20 years, my client, with an agency in Hoboken, I brought him right in the door and I got $100,000 project. And I was like, hey guys, how about you pay me a commission on that? They're like, yeah, we'll give you 15%. I'm like, seriously? All right. So they sent me a check for $15,000. It was the easiest. It took me 2 to 3 hours to make $15,000. So
Mm,
that was like, okay, well, let me see. That's when I went and got some other people and said, hey, how about I pay you? And then really, like, I'm like, well, let's see if this works, right? I met this guy Alejandro at a party at my friend's house. And I was like, he's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm just starting this group, and he was a motion graphics guy. I said, oh, do you want help selling? He's like, yeah. He spoke broken English. He was from, I think, like, I forget where he's from, but like he obviously wasn't a sales guy. Is the point? Like
Mm,
he wasn't going to go out there and light the world on fire as sales. He's like, no, I would love that, Joe. Will you help me get business? Yeah, and you just pay me a cut. He's like, that's great. So he sent me his reel. I looked at it. It was some of the best stuff I had ever seen because I was in that world. I sent it right to my buddy Vito on Wednesday. On Friday, Alejandro was in his office doing his first project for this big agency in the city. And then he did a couple projects. It was like 2 grand, 4 grand, whatever it was. And I got a couple bucks off it. And I didn't hear from him for about 4 months. I heard nothing. I go, all right, I guess it dried up, whatever. I'm sitting at my kitchen table in Hoboken, and I get an email from Alejandro. Hey, Joe, I just got paid by the company. Send me the invoice. So he had been working for them this whole time. He
right.
got a check. He got a check for about $60,000. He was paying me 15% at the time. So he's like, send me an invoice. So I was like, okay. So I got on my computer. I sent him an invoice for like 9,000 something, whatever it came
Mm,
out to. And the
mm,
next week I had a check. I made 10 grand, not even knowing what was going on.
mm,
That's when it was really like, oh shit, this could really work. Right. So like,
mm,
and now running a community, like I said this morning, like thing came in for $1,400. Like, the best part is I don't know about it, right? It's just
mm,
one person starts to connect. So when you have these communities and they start connecting with each other, meeting each other, they, oh, I got something for you, Mark. Let me introduce you to that person, right?
mm,
And you're the community owner. Like people are working all the time. Somebody's probably having a meeting right now with two of our members that are like, hey, I got somebody to introduce you to, or somebody's closing a deal. So it really that when that came in, I think those two things were like this is for someone like me again that loves to
mm,
network. And
mm.
Alejandro, how happy was he? The guy
Yeah.
that year he did about $100,000 in business through me that
Mm,
he would have never gotten, right?
mm,
And he did all the work himself, right?
mm,
He was the motion guy. He did the motion graphics himself, like I was saying earlier. Like these people
mm.
like to do the work, and he didn't have to sell. He was happy as hell to give me $15,000 for
Yeah.
the 85,000 he made that year off of me.
Yeah.
It was awesome for him, right? And that money went in his pocket. It's great. So it works for everybody. And guess what? My buddy Vito, who's the client, was happy as hell. Actually, Alejandro was invited to an award ceremony. They won an award for the work he
Oh,
did.
wow.
So it made their
Brilliant.
agency look good. So it made the
Yeah.
client look really good. They won some big award for their client.
Mm,
So they're
mm.
an agency. So their client was the
Yeah.
end product, and they got an award for the marketing. So the client was so everybody's happy, right? So it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. So
Yeah.
it just works. Yeah. So
Brilliant. How do you think you've evolved as a leader?
oh, that's a good one. Obviously, well, the biggest thing you got to do is listen, right? Well, two things I think really. What I learned from running all these businesses over the years was like, you got to bring in the right people to do the job, right? And you can't do stuff. So, like my partner Adrian, like I have nothing to do with the software, right? He built it with the group. Like I'm not smart enough to build the software, right? So, but I was like, the first meeting with the dev team was like, is it going to do this, this, and that when it's finished? Yes. Okay. You guys don't need me on this call. So, as a leader, I think you bring in the people that are going to do the right job, right? And I knew from my first company when I started the marketing company that got to $3 million when the economy hit in 2008, 2009, the recession. I wasn't prepared for that. I was just selling, 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 and all of a sudden it's like my sales went from 250 to $60,000. I was doing
Mm,
250 a month in sales to 60,000. I wasn't prepared for that financially, right? So
mm,
the first thing I did when starting this company was bring in a CFO, right? So we have one of the members is fractional CFO, and it's the number every week. We go over the numbers, right? So you got to put in place the people that are going to fill in the gaps of what you're not good at,
mm. Yeah.
right? You got to
Absolutely.
have those people doing that stuff, right? So that's one thing. And then, like I said at the beginning, you got to listen to people. Like we've listened to the members, like right.
Mm,
You've been a member for a little bit, but hey, what else do you need? Oh, like we just started vertical meetings, right? Because
mm,
one of the members, Andrew, was like, hey, I just want to meet other marketing people, right?
mm,
It's great. I'll meet with the other people, but really the marketing people, right? I
mm,
do this other person does that. I'd like to meet just those people. So we started putting vertical meetings. Now we have 5 vertical meetings every month that are just the people in those spheres, right? So it's great. So the video person is sending work to the printing company. The printing guy is sending design work to the designer, right? So listening to what the members want, and then doing that, right? So to constantly be able to pivot and listen, our members are our customers essentially,
mm,
right? So
mm,
what's
mm,
going to make them happy and get them more business, right?
mm.
So you constantly got to be on the lookout for what they need. So.
Yeah. What would you say your risk appetite is, and has it changed over the years?
No, I'll that's a bad part. I'll listen. You have to risk it, right? You don't you don't get anything unless you risk something. But you're not going to risk it all, right? I'm not going to I have equity in my home, and I'm not going to put up $400,000 to go after this thing, right? It's just that you can't be stupid with it to be like, I believe in this thing so much, it's going to go. But so, yes, I've reinvested a lot of the money that I brought in over the years back into the company, right? And I've always done that with my companies. That's what I do. I don't invest in stocks and stuff. My wife does that stuff. But like, so, you got to be, a little bit of risk averse. But for the most part, like, I'm going to go for something, right? Like, I think a lot of the people are like, wow, how come nobody's done this before? Or we talk to investors that are like, we've seen people try this before. We've seen people try and do a software like this before. But nobody, honestly, I think nobody had the balls enough to put the money up and the time in to actually build it. I mean, this is $1 million piece of software,
Mm,
right? We've
mm.
put we've put our necks on the line and to do it, and it's working, right? And I just think nobody else has done it, right? Because it's like, wait, how much is it going to cost to do this? Now, like, so we've done it. And people are like, wow, I think, and we've heard people, there's a gap in the market in networking. If there's a software that could help with networking, that's going to be a huge, game changer because there's a gap in the industry. Nobody has a piece of software that really can help people grow their groups and their networking. So I think, yeah, you have to take some risk, and we did it. We took that risk, right? But
Mm.
slowly, right? Again, like, started out with the group. Let's see if these 20 people will work, right? And those 20 people,
Yeah.
the idea started working, and then it got to this many people, and then we did an MVP of the software first. So I spent, like, I don't know, $30,000, let's say, on the first version of the software. So we risked 30 grand. And right, so then we have the software working, and that helped us grow, continue to
Mm.
grow. Okay, now we can go and do the big risk and a little bit more, high level. So yeah, so I've never been afraid to do anything, right? And that's part of, I think, when they say you're an entrepreneur or whatever, like, you gotta risk some stuff. But again, risk it at stages, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah.
Um, Before we go into the quickfire questions, I want to ask you, when I was Googling you and finding information about you, I found a SoundCloud page with music that you've created. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. This is my sophomore album, as I call it. My kids make fun of me because I call it a sophomore album. Like, my fans have been waiting for my sophomore album. So, and obviously, nobody has a CD player, but I
No.
made CDs. So listen, for me, it's like, look, it's a nice, thing to do on the side. Like, I just started writing music years ago, and I can't sing or play any instruments, and you don't want to hear me sing. But it was a fun outlet to, like, write a song, and there's a website called Fiverr, Fiverr, that has people, and I found it years ago, and I was like, oh, this guy could sing my song, and then you pay him, and it's pretty cheap for a lot of it. It depends. You could pay a little bit more and get a better quality. So I put out my first album 2020, I think, and like I said, my fans have been waiting 4 years for the new the new album. But I wrote, like, 12 songs, and honestly, like, some of them, like, listen, I don't have any delusions of grandeur that I'm going to be like whatever, but, like, listen, it's networking, right? I put it out there to people, right? Like I said,
Mm,
the Sony
mm,
guy, like,
mm.
hey, look, I don't, not like Sony's going to buy my songs, but, like, let me find somebody that could introduce me to somebody that could actually take some of the songs, and there's got to be somebody out there that sells songs to these artists,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? None of these artists write their own songs, not a lot of them.
Mm,
Taylor Swift
mm,
maybe, but, like, a lot of these
mm.
other artists just find they're looking for songs to do. So,
Yeah.
these are basically like demos, and and I'm trying to find somebody that's like, hey, I like your song. Let me pitch it to Jelly Roll for his next album
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. But if
Amazing.
not, at the end of the day, I get to hand out these to friends and family, and they're like, "What is
Yeah.
this CD? You wrote an album? What?" So it's just fun. So, and I just finished my movie, the first draft of the movie. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
yeah. So that's my my next thing. And look, these are things that, like, it's good for people to try, and that's my fun creative outlet is
Yeah.
writing, right? And am I the best writer in the world? No, but, like, I like it, and I like having a CD in my songs. I could care
Yeah.
less if anyone really likes them, but people actually do like them. So I wrote over the summer. I kind of, every Saturday I would go to the library, and sit there for an hour or two and write a scene of the movie. And you just slowly, it takes a while, but you slowly kind of do it. So, but it's fun. Yeah.
That's
Hope you didn't find
exciting.
anything bad on Google. I don't think this.
No, 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 there was nothing bad on Google. I have to admit there was nothing there. I did look to
No,
see if I can find anything. No, no,
yeah,
no.
no, there's nothing I know about there, so I think I'm clear. So I'm good. Yeah, you always got to keep your reputation clean, so it's
Yeah,
good.
right. We're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all my guests. So quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. The first question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Whew, the best decision I made, I think, again, I think just building Nolodex was a good decision. Like I could have just stayed and run this group and done this small, type of thing, and just, that was initially my idea was just I'm going to run a networking group and I'll do that on the side type of thing. And I'm like, wait, there's something here.
Mm,
And I've thrown stuff against the wall before, but nothing that was really unique like this. So I think just kind of making the decision to do it, and then honestly to bringing my partner Adrian in was a good decision. I met him through recruiting through the through the community. I was like, hey, you should join my community. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, hey, and then so I don't think the software could have been built if he didn't come on. So bringing him on, again, bringing someone on that could do it. So
yeah.
it's been great to have a good partner that could help it get going. I don't think it wouldn't have been out there if it wasn't for that.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Hmm. I guess one of the things I was told by my accountant years ago was like, like, why are you going to spend all that money to go do something when someone else could do it, right? So we were in the printing business, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go take out $1 million and buy my own printing equipment and do all that. He's like, why would you take on all that overhead? Just broker the business. You're growing your graphic design studio business. Why do printing, which is less margins? Just send it over to the printer and take a cut of
Mm,
every deal, right? So like,
mm,
let somebody else have all the overhead. So that was a good decision because the things I've done since don't take a lot of money and don't have a lot of overhead to do, right? Like
mm,
our overhead is very low,
mm,
right?
mm,
Like we don't have an office and equipment and
mm,
like so. I think that advice from Henry at the time was like, yeah, why take on all this debt and do all this? Do it the right way. So like, I started this company with like I don't know, maybe $2,500. Me and I had an original partner on this, and I still talk to him. He got another gig. He got 5 kids also. So yeah, but like I think we started with $2,500 each, right? And now it's a nice sized company. So like, yeah, so that advice was good to not just take on. I have a friend that just started a business, and I think it took him 1.2 million to start it.
oh,
1.2 just before they opened the doors. I was like,
yeah,
dude, find something that doesn't have a lot of money
yeah, yeah,
to start, right? So yeah, so that's been good financially because it's stressful, right? You start a
yeah.
business. I don't get stressed out too much because I've done it. This is like my 8th business, so I've done this before. So I don't, it doesn't it doesn't stress me out to start the stuff. But yeah, that was good advice from Henry.
Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
I guess say Jack Gonzalez was like my original, like my best first client who helped like get the company really going and kind of helped me along the way as far as business stuff. Right? He was the sales guy too. So I think a lot of it he helped me with a lot of that. We would have a lot of long liquid lunches back in the day and talk about a lot of stuff. But his company became my number one client and really helped us grow the agency. So that kind of helped, and I learned a lot from him about a business and how to conduct yourself and how to grow a business and stuff. So he was very helpful.
Tell me about a regret that you have.
I think my main regret is probably selling my marketing agency. Having a whole marketing team behind what you do is great, right?
Mm,
I had web developers and I had designers, and so like when I'm starting Nolodex, I would have had a whole team that could do it all for basically free because they
mm,
work for me, right? But I hadn't had that thought at that time because I was starting a beer company and I was starting a business in the wedding industry, and that's what I wanted to focus on. So I kind of was like, all right, I need to get rid of these 2 other companies, right? I sold them,
yeah,
whatever, but I probably would have kept it because the marketing agency wound up folding. The guy that took it over just ran it into the ground, to be honest, unfortunately. And I should have just probably kept that. I think about that a lot. Like I should have just kept that. I could have just had a full marketing team behind what I was doing. But
mm,
at the time, hindsight, that was what 5, 6 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
it's like at the time I just really wanted to focus. And look, when I sold it, I was able to get these other two companies up and running.
Yeah.
Like they would have never got up and running if I was still running those two other companies. So it's hindsight's 2020. So
Yeah. Of course. What are you most proud of?
I guess really showing my kids that they could do anything they want to do. Right? I mean, I think right now they don't see it because they're teenagers and they're like, "You're an idiot." But and it's funny to everyone that I put out an album and we were just on a cruise with my kids and I was like, "Who wants to read my script?" And not even my wife read it, right? So like, they're all like, "You're an idiot." But I think for me, it's like, I started a bunch of companies from scratch. I put an album together. I started, my magazine was a very high level magazine, right? This guy,
Wow.
Mark Lohr, is the guy that sold his company to Walmart for $3 billion, and I interviewed him for the cover of my magazine. Like I've done music festivals, I've done a lot of stuff. So I think, for me, I'm a father, right? And with anything, if you're a parent, you're a parent first. So I think showing them that, hey guys, whatever you want to do, you could do it, right? I wanted to write a CD, I wrote a CD. Whether people like it or not, again, I don't care, but like I did it, right? I put it together. Now, so I think that's for me, making money and all that stuff is great, but like I gotta be a role model to the kids to be like, what do you guys want to do? And I've seen it already. My son, surprisingly, he wants to get into business now. He's always been the engineer mind, but he's like, I want to do the business side of it, Dad. So I'm hoping maybe that was a little influence from me, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. This question is going to be a tough one because we've shared quite a lot. But the question is, tell me something about you that most people don't know about you.
Hmm.
You can tell me about the movie script if you want. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, I think people. Yeah, I think people don't know a lot of the stuff I do on the side because I don't talk about it too much to like
Mm,
out in the world, right? Like my
yeah.
friends know and all that stuff, but like I sent somebody a note the other day. I was like, "Hey, do you know this guy? Because he just produced a movie and he lives in my town." And the guy's friends with him on Facebook. He's like, "I don't know him. Why?" I'm like, "Oh, I just wrote a movie script and I want to get it to him." He's like, "You wrote a movie?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like he's like, "Really?" He's like, "What do you not do?" I'm like, "Well, I wrote a movie. I also wrote a play, right? So I have a play I wrote, and I'm not a play guy. I don't like plays. So, but it was just the idea came to me, and I wrote a play. So I think a lot of people don't know a lot of the different things that I do on the side. Like I have my own charity, right? I don't, a lot of people, the charity I post some stuff online about and stuff, but we build housing for homeless veterans, right? So veterans that need a home, we're building around 250 units of housing for homeless veterans here in New Jersey right now. So
Wow, that's amazing.
on Tuesday we have a groundbreaking for our Westfield location. We're going to put up 22 units of housing. But those are things like I'm never a big fan of the post online to be like, look at what I'm doing for charity. Look at the good
Yeah,
things I'm doing, and here's look, great for people doing that. But if you're doing it just to post and be like, look at what we did to help people. Like I don't know, I like to kind of do that stuff on the back end and just get stuff done, right? But so yeah, I think that's
that's
stuff
amazing.
that I don't post online and too much about, right? So
That's incredible. And the last question is, what does legacy mean to you?
yeah, that's a good one too. Again, like for me, I mean, the most important legacy for me right now would be the charity, right? To end veteran homelessness and to be part of that and to have my legacy associated with that would be, that's something like we have 6 veterans been living in this facility in Hoboken for the last 4 years, and it all started when I put this thing together, right? So that's really like what I love to see is obviously like I love the business and I love running these businesses and stuff, but like if at the end in 5, 10 years from now, if we've got there's 575 homeless veterans in New Jersey right now, and we're building 250 units of housing. So we're
Amazing.
we're almost building half of that. So by the end of 5 years, we'll probably have any veteran that needs a home in New Jersey can have one, right? And
Yeah,
then we bring that across the country. So in 20 years from now, when I'm retired and just still kind of running the charity, like if there's no vets without homes, like that's
you,
an awesome
you're
legacy,
done.
right? So,
Yeah,
but I remember taking my son around Hoboken before we left, and showing him like all the stuff around town, like my magazine in stores. And I had another thing I worked on where our little labels were in windows. And then, hey, there's the veteran housing we built in town, right? So like I was in Hoboken for 20 something years, and people knew my name there. And I said to Finn, I said,
Mhm.
that's what a legacy is. People, I've been
Yeah,
out of there for 7 years now, but people still, talk about me and know me and the stuff that I did there. And that's really important. So.
that's incredible. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to find out more about Nolodex or about you?
Yeah, so Nolodex.com or Joe at Nolodex.com. On LinkedIn, it's Joe Mindak, Mindak. So any of those are on there, So that's where you can go and check it out. And if
Brilliant.
you want to send me an email, Joe at Nolodex.com, I can set up a demo. That's what we're looking to do. It's just we're looking to demo the software to people, and I told my partner, I said, this is one of the easiest things I've ever sold. It is the easiest thing I've ever sold because I'm in a half-hour conversation with a demo, and people are like, wait, I want my group on it, and I got another group I want on it. This is
Mm,
really brilliant. I mean, most people look at it like it's brilliant, and it is, and you always want your idea to work, but
yeah,
this is really getting a lot of legs, and people are really excited about it. So we're pretty psyched about it. So.
brilliant. All right, thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and you telling me about your story and as well as your current business. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Mark. This is awesome. I love talking with you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Cheers. I really hope you've enjoyed that content. It's a really fascinating interview that I've done there. So please do, if you are enjoying this content, please do give it a like. Please do give a subscribe. It'd be really good to boost the subscriptions. It really makes a difference to the algorithm in YouTube. So thank you for that. If you do hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and you'll get all of the content. You'll get notified when all the content is available. Thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Thanks a lot.